The massive crystal chamber on Zentara Prime hummed with the voices of 12 different alien species. Ambassador Thex of the Vorthan Empire sat in his floating chair, his scaled green skin reflecting the blue light from the walls. Next to him, the tall and graceful Celestine representative Lyrian moved her long neck as she watched the center of the room. Other aliens filled the remaining seats, each one representing worlds that had joined the Galactic Council thousands of years ago. Et al. The center of the chamber stood Elder Corvash. His body looked like living crystal, clear and bright with lights moving inside him like tiny stars. He was old, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. His people, the Etherians, had been watching the stars when many of the other species were still learning to make fire. "My fellow council members," Corvash began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation devices each alien wore. "I bring you a warning from the deepest archives of my homeworld. It concerns a species that lives on the third planet of a yellow star they call Sol." Ambassador Thex made a sound that his translator turned into laughter. "You mean those primitive mammals? The ones who still fight wars with chemical explosives? What possible threat could they be?" Corvash's crystal form glowed brighter. "The ancient texts speak of a trait these humans possess. They do not understand the concept of hopeless defeat. When faced with impossible odds, they do not surrender. They fight harder." The chamber filled with the sounds of alien laughter. Lyrian shook her head, her silver eyes showing amusement. "Elder Corvash, with respect, these humans have barely left their own planet. Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. How could such a primitive species pose any danger to the Council?" "Because," Corvash said quietly, "they evolved on a death world where surrender meant extinction. Every other species in this galaxy learned to yield when defeat was certain. It saved our ancestors from pointless death. But humans never learned this wisdom. They call it hope, but I call it dangerous madness." Ambassador Quinn of the peaceful Arcturians spoke up. "Even if what you say is true, what do you suggest we do? These humans have not asked to join the Council. They have not threatened any of our worlds." Thex leaned forward in his floating chair. "Actually, they have sent several radio signals into space. Crude messages, but clearly attempts at communication. Perhaps it is time we made contact with them, brought them under proper guidance before they become a problem." The other ambassadors murmured agreement. It made sense to them. Every species that had ever joined the Council had done so peacefully, understanding that cooperation was better than conflict. The Vorthons were the galaxy's military force, and no species had ever been foolish enough to fight them for long. "We'll handle the first contact," Thex announced. "My fleet can establish a protectorate over their system. Standard terms: they surrender their weapons, accept our governance, and provide resources to the Council. Simple and efficient." Corvash watched the proceedings with growing concern. His crystal body dimmed slightly. "You do not understand. The texts warn us clearly. These humans will not accept your terms. They will fight you, and that fighting will spread like a plague across the galaxy." "Nonsense," Thex replied. "What could one primitive world do against the might of the Vorthan Empire? We have conquered 47 systems without losing a single major battle. These humans will see reason, just like all the others." The vote was unanimous except for Corvash's abstention. The Council authorized Thex to make contact with humanity and bring them into the galactic community under Vorthon protection. Far across the galaxy on the blue-green world called Earth, Commander Jake Martinez stood in the command center of the newly built Earth Defense Force headquarters. The building was simple compared to alien architecture, made of steel and concrete, but it represented humanity's first serious attempt at planetary defense. "Commander," called Captain Lisa Morgan as she entered the room carrying a data pad. "We're receiving a transmission from outside the solar system. It's definitely artificial, and the computer says it's trying to communicate." Jake took the pad and read the translation that Earth's computers had managed to decode. His face grew dark as he read. "They want us to what?" Lisa read over his shoulder. "Surrender all military assets, accept governance by something called the Vorthan Empire, and provide agricultural resources to the Galactic Council." In exchange, they'll protect us from hostile aliens and give us limited access to their trade networks. Protection from hostile aliens, Jake repeated slowly. By surrendering to different aliens. Do they think we're stupid? Dr. Amy Foster, Earth's top expert on the radio signals they had been receiving from space, entered the command center. She had been studying alien communications for years, preparing for this moment. Commander, I've been analyzing their transmission methods. Their technology is incredibly advanced. If they're telling the truth about their capabilities, we wouldn't stand a chance in a direct fight. Jake looked at the message again, then at the faces of his officers. Doctor, in your expert opinion, what happens if we tell them no? Amy hesitated. Based on their message, I think they'll try to force us to comply. They seem to believe they have the right to govern us. Captain Morgan stepped forward. Sir, the President is waiting for our recommendation. The entire UN Security Council is in emergency session. Jake was quiet for a long moment, thinking about everything Earth had been through. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and every natural disaster their planet could throw at them. They had never been good at backing down from a fight, even when they probably should have. Send a message back, Jake finally said. Keep it simple. Tell them thank you for the offer, but Earth will remain independent. We're not interested in their protection or their governance. Dr. Foster looked worried. Commander, are you sure? Their technology is so far ahead of ours. Doctor, Jake replied. In my experience, bullies don't stop being bullies just because you give them what they want. If we surrender now, we'll spend the rest of human history under their boot. I'd rather fight and lose as free people than live as slaves. The message was sent within an hour, short, polite, and absolutely clear. Earth rejected the Galactic Council's offer. 6 months later, long-range sensors detected a massive fleet entering the outer edges of the solar system. 300 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, confident and unhurried. Elder Korvash felt the disturbance in the cosmic forces from his meditation chamber on Zentara Prime. The future was shifting, changing in ways that made his crystal form tremble. The humans had done exactly what the ancient texts predicted they would do. They had said no to an empire that had never been refused before. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object, and Korvash feared that everyone would pay the price for the Council's arrogance. Admiral Zek stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive blue world grow larger on his screens. Behind him, 300 Vorthon warships moved in perfect formation. Each vessel was armed with plasma cannons that could melt mountains and energy shields that had never been broken. The Admiral's scaled face showed confidence as he reviewed the battle plan one final time. Communications, Zek ordered. Send the final surrender demand to the planet below. The message was broadcast on all frequencies. Humans of Earth, you have 1 hour to lower your planetary defenses and surrender unconditionally. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. On Earth, Commander Jake Martinez stood in the war room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around him, officers from every nation worked at computer terminals, coordinating the planet's defenses. The room buzzed with nervous energy as reports came in from around the globe. Sir, Captain Lisa Morgan reported, we have confirmation. 300 enemy ships, just like the long-range sensors detected. They're moving into attack formation above the major population centers. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her analysis station. Commander, I've been studying their ship designs from the telescope images. Their technology is at least 1,000 years ahead of ours. Those energy shields alone are beyond anything we can build. Jake nodded grimly. What about our defenses? Have the orbital defense platforms around Earth and the Moon, Lisa replied. 50 missile batteries, 20 railgun installations, and about 200 modified spacecraft that we've armed with whatever weapons we could mount. The numbers were sobering. Earth's entire space fleet consisted of converted mining ships, retrofitted cargo haulers, and hastily built defense platforms. Against 300 advanced warships, they didn't stand a chance by any reasonable calculation. Sir, a communications officer called out, Incoming message from Captain Ben Rodriguez on Mining Platform 7. He says his crew is ready. Jake activated the communication link. Ben's voice came through clearly calm despite the approaching fleet. Commander, we've packed Platform 7 with every explosive we could find. If those aliens want to fight, we'll give them one they won't forget. Similar reports came in from around the solar system. Captain Susan Miller had turned her cargo freighter into a flying bomb. Lieutenant Danny Cooper was leading a squadron of modified maintenance pods armed with jury-rigged missiles. Every human vessel, no matter how small or poorly armed, was preparing to fight. The alien fleet reached attack position exactly 1 hour after their ultimatum. Admiral Zek expected to see the humans' primitive weapons powering down, their ships retreating to safe distance. Instead, his sensors detected the opposite. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, "The human vessels are moving to intercept us. All of them." Zek stared at his displays in confusion. All of them? Even their civilian craft? Yes, sir. We're reading mining ships, cargo vessels, even small personal spacecraft. They're all moving toward our fleet. This made no sense to Zek. His intelligence reports had been clear about human military capabilities. They had maybe 50 real warships if you counted their armed platforms generously. The rest were civilian vessels with no business in a space battle. Perhaps they're evacuating, Zek suggested. Moving their civilians to safety? No, sir, the tactical officer replied. They're armed. Crude weapons, but they're definitely planning to fight. Admiral Zek had conquered 47 star systems in his long career. Never once had a civilian population joined a hopeless battle. When faced with overwhelming force, intelligent species surrendered to preserve their people. It was basic survival logic that every civilized race understood. Open fire, Zek ordered. Target their military vessels first. Perhaps a demonstration of our power will convince them to be reasonable. The Vorthon fleet opened fire with devastating precision. Plasma beams lanced out across space, striking the human defense platforms. The first wave of attacks destroyed 20 installations in seconds, their shields overloading and hulls melting under the alien weapons. But instead of retreating, the human response was immediate and shocking. Captain Ben Rodriguez piloted mining Platform 7 directly at the nearest Vorthon cruiser. His modified mining ship, packed with explosives and moving at maximum speed, struck the alien vessel's shield array head-on. The explosion was visible from Earth, a brief new star that destroyed both ships completely. What just happened? Zek demanded. The human mining vessel rammed the crusher, sir, his tactical officer reported, voice filled with disbelief. Both ships are destroyed. The human ship's captain. He made no attempt to escape. He flew directly into our shields. Before Zek could respond, more human ships followed Ben's example. Captain Susan Miller's cargo freighter, converted into a massive missile, struck another Vorthon vessel. Lieutenant Danny Cooper's maintenance pods swarmed around a destroyer like angry insects, their small weapons targeting specific systems with desperate precision. Sir, the communications officer announced, we're receiving transmissions from the human vessels. Should I translate? Do it, Zek ordered. The human voices filled the bridge, translated into Vorthon by their computers. This is Earth defense. Force vessel independence, we will not surrender. Mining ship Aurora engaging the enemy for Earth and freedom. Cargo hauler Liberty, beginning attack run. See you in hell, aliens. Admiral Zek watched his displays in growing amazement. Human ships continued attacking even after taking damage that should have killed their crews. A mining ship with half its hull blown away still fired its makeshift weapons. A cargo vessel, completely disabled and drifting, somehow managed to launch one final missile before its power failed. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, we've lost 7 ships so far. The humans are using ramming attacks and close-range explosions. They're not following any logical combat doctrine. How many human ships have we destroyed? 43. Sir, but more keep coming, and sir, they're getting more effective. The later attacks are hitting our weak points with increasing accuracy. Dr. Amy Foster analyzed the battle from Earth's command center, watching as human vessels threw themselves against the alien fleet. Each attack taught the survivors something new about Vorthon technology. The humans were learning, adapting, improving their tactics even as they died. "Commander," she reported to Jake, "our people are finding weaknesses in their shields. The ramming attacks are working because their energy barriers aren't designed to stop physical impacts at high speed." Jake nodded, then activated the general communication frequency. "All Earth Defense Force vessels, this is command. Focus your attacks on the shield generators. Use physical impacts when possible. Make every shot count." The battle continued for 6 more hours. Admiral Zek lost 15 ships before he finally ordered a retreat. His remaining vessels pulled back beyond Earth's orbital defense range, regrouping and trying to understand what had just happened. "Admiral," his communications officer announced, "the Galactic Council is requesting a full report." Zek looked at his tactical displays one more time. 58 human vessels destroyed, but they had taken 15 Vorthan ships with them. More importantly, they had fought with a ferocity that defied all military logic. "Tell the Council," Zek said slowly, "that these humans fight like creatures that have forgotten how to die. They ram our ships with cargo vessels. They continue attacking even when their weapons are destroyed. It is unprecedented." Elder Korvash received the battle report on Zentara Prime, his crystal form glowing dimly in his meditation chamber. The ancient texts had predicted this exactly. Humans would not surrender, even when surrender was the only logical choice. The first battle was over, but Korvash knew it was only the beginning. The humans had tasted victory against impossible odds, and that would make them even more dangerous. Word of their resistance would spread across the galaxy, and other oppressed species would begin to wonder if they too could fight back. The galaxy was about to change, and the Galactic Council had no idea what they had unleashed. News of the human resistance traveled faster than the Vorthon fleet could return to Council space. Across the galaxy, species that had accepted Vorthon rule for centuries heard the impossible story. A primitive world had fought back against the Empire and survived. More than survived, they had actually won their first battle. On the industrial world of Mechanos, Vex stood in the shadows between the massive mining machines. He was Corrigan, a species of strong, intelligent beings who had been enslaved by the Vorthons for 800 years. His people worked the deep mines, extracting rare metals that powered the Empire's war machines. "Did you hear?" whispered Kalo, another Corrigan worker, as they met during the shift change. The humans refused to surrender. They actually fought the Vorthon fleet and drove them away. Vex had heard the stories, passed along through the secret communication networks that connected all the enslaved worlds. At first, he had not believed them. No species fought the Vorthons directly. It was suicide. "Even if it's true," Vex replied quietly, "what does it matter to us? We're trapped here. The Vorthons have our families on the prison colonies." But as the days passed, more details reached Mechanos. The humans had used converted civilian ships as weapons. They had found weaknesses in Vorthon technology that no one else had discovered. Most importantly, they had proven that the Empire could be hurt. Vex began to think differently about the mining equipment around him. These machines were powerful, designed to break apart asteroids and extract precious metals. In the right hands, they could be weapons. He started making plans. 3 systems away on the ocean world of Delphina, Captain Rick Sullivan floated in his underwater habitat. He was human, one of the few Earth ambassadors who had been stationed off-world before. The war began. When the Vorthon fleet attacked Earth, Rick had been trapped behind enemy lines. The Delphinians were an aquatic species, gentle and peaceful. Their world served as a naval base for the Vorthon fleet, their deep oceans perfect for hiding warships. The Delphinians had never resisted because they believed resistance was impossible. "Captain Sullivan," spoke Coral, the Delphinian leader of the underwater city. Her translated voice carried a new tone that Rick had never heard before. "We have received word from your homeworld. Is it true that humans fought the Vorthon fleet?" Rick nodded, his heart swelling with pride. "It's true. My people don't know how to give up, and now they're teaching the galaxy that the Vorthons can be beaten." Coral's large eyes reflected something Rick recognized as hope. "Captain, your people fought in vehicles not designed for war. They used civilian ships against military vessels. Is this correct?" "Yes," Rick replied. "We used whatever we had. Mining ships, cargo haulers, anything that could mount a weapon or carry explosives." Coral was quiet for a long moment, her graceful form moving slowly through the water. "Captain, we have many vessels in our oceans. Ships that carry supplies, craft that tend our underwater farms. The Vorthons use our world as a base, but they do not guard against us. They think we are too peaceful to be dangerous." Rick understood immediately. "You want to fight back? We want to be free," Coral replied. "And perhaps it is time we learned from human tactics." On Zentara Prime, Elder Corvash sat in emergency session with the Galactic Council. The chamber that had once been filled with confident voices now buzzed with worry and confusion. "Ambassador." Thex paced back and forth, his scaled skin darker than usual with stress. "How could this have happened?" demanded Lyrian, the Celestine representative. "Admiral Zek is our most experienced commander. His fleet should have conquered that primitive world in hours." Thex stopped pacing and turned to face the council. According to Zek's report, the humans fought with complete disregard for their own survival. They used kamikaze tactics, ramming our ships with their civilian vessels. No civilized species fights this way. Ambassador Quinn of the Arcturians spoke carefully. "Perhaps we should consider negotiation. If these humans are as dangerous as you say, wouldn't it be better to make peace?" "Absolutely not," Thex replied angrily. "If we negotiate with these primitives, every species in the galaxy will think they can defy the Empire. We must crush them completely, as an example to others." Elder Corvash had remained silent through most of the debate, but now he stood. His crystal form pulsed with internal light as he spoke. "My friends, I fear we have already lost control of this situation. The news of human resistance has spread to every world in Council space. Reports are coming in of unusual activity on the enslaved worlds." "What kind of activity?" Lyrian asked. "Equipment failures in the mines of Mykonos. Navigation errors in the shipping lanes around Delphina. Small acts of sabotage that could be explained as accidents, but the pattern is clear. The humans have given other species something we thought we had eliminated forever." "Which is what?" Thex demanded. "Hope," Corvash replied simply. "On Mykonos, Vex's careful planning paid off. During the night shift, when Vorthon supervision was lightest, he and 50 other Corrigan workers began their rebellion. They used the mining equipment to collapse tunnel sections, trapping Vorthon guards underground. They reprogrammed the transport systems to crash, destroying supply shipments. Most importantly, they disabled the communication arrays that connected Mykonos to the rest of the Empire. For too long we have accepted slavery because we believed freedom was impossible," Vex announced to his fellow workers as they gathered in the main cavern. "But the humans have shown us that even the mighty Vorthon fleet can be defeated. If they can fight with mining ships and cargo haulers, we can fight with mining equipment and transport vehicles." The Corrigan uprising spread across Mykonos within days. The Vorthons had never prepared for a revolt by their slaves. Their security was designed to prevent escape, not organized resistance. On Delphina, Captain Rick Sullivan worked with Coral to coordinate submarine attacks on the Vorthon naval base. The Delphinians had detailed knowledge of their ocean currents and underwater terrain. They used this knowledge to guide modified cargo submarines in surprise attacks on Vorthon supply ships. "The humans taught us that civilian vessels can become weapons," Coral explained to her people as they prepared for their first major assault. "We have cargo submarines that carry food between our cities. With small modifications, they can carry explosives instead." The attack came at dawn, when the Vorthon fleet was least prepared. Delphinian submarines, moving silent and invisible through their home waters, struck at the enemy ships anchored in the deep harbors. The explosions lit up the ocean floor as supply vessels and support craft erupted in balls of fire. Back on Earth, Dr. Amy Foster studied the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Her translation computers were working overtime, processing messages from dozens of different species. The pattern was clear and amazing. "Commander," she reported to Jake Martinez, "we're receiving communications from at least 12 different worlds. They're all reporting uprisings against Vorthan forces. The Korrigans on Mekanos, the Delphinians, even some of the peaceful Arcturians are beginning to resist." Jake looked at the star maps showing the spreading rebellion. Red dots marked each world where resistance was beginning, and more appeared every day. "Doctor, are you saying that our fight has inspired other species to rebel?" "More than that, Commander, they're using our tactics. Converted civilian vessels, improvised weapons, kamikaze attacks. They're copying everything we did in our first battle and adapting it to their own situations." Colonel Kate Thompson, who had been planning Earth's ground defenses, looked up from her tactical displays. "Sir, this changes everything. If the Vorthans are fighting rebellions on multiple worlds, they can't concentrate their full fleet against Earth." Jake nodded slowly. "It also means that if we lose, all these other species will probably be crushed in revenge. The stakes just got a lot higher." Elder Korvash felt the cosmic disturbances growing stronger each day. The ordered galaxy that had existed for thousands of years was breaking apart, replaced by something chaotic and unpredictable. The humans had done exactly what the ancient texts warned they would do. They had shown the galaxy that resistance was possible. The old order was ending, and Korvash could only hope that what replaced it would be better than what came before. 2 years had passed since the first battle at Earth, and the galaxy had transformed into something unrecognizable. What began as a simple conquest mission had become the largest rebellion in galactic history. Admiral Zek stood on the bridge of his rebuilt flagship, staring at tactical displays that showed red warning lights across half the known galaxy. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we have confirmed uprisings on 43 worlds. The humans have established contact with resistance groups across 7 different star systems." Zek's scaled face showed the strain of 2 years of constant warfare. The Vorthan Empire, once the undisputed master of the galaxy, was fighting on dozens of fronts simultaneously. Worse, they were losing ground every day. "What's the status of the Korrigan rebellion on Mekanos?" "They've taken control of the primary mining facilities, sir. Our forces are limited to the orbital stations. The Korrigans are using our own mining equipment against us." On Earth, General Alex Carter stood in the expanded command center that now coordinated resistance efforts across multiple star systems. The simple underground bunker had grown into a complex network of tunnels and chambers filled with communication equipment from a dozen different alien species. "General," reported Captain Lisa Morgan, now promoted to handle interspecies coordination, "we have confirmation that the joint operation is ready to proceed. The Korrigans will hit the supply depot at Mekanos. The Delphinians will attack the naval base at coordinate 77 Alpha, and our forces will strike the main Vorthan fleet at the Crimson Nebula." Alex studied the 3-dimensional star map showing the planned attacks. "This is our biggest operation yet, Lisa. If it works, we cripple Vorthan logistics across this entire sector. If it fails, sir, at least we'll fail fighting," Lisa replied. "That's become our specialty." The Crimson Nebula was a massive cloud of gas and cosmic dust that interfered with most scanning equipment. Admiral Zek had moved the core of his fleet there, believing the nebula would protect him from the unpredictable human tactics that had caused so much damage over the past 2 years. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark piloted his experimental fighter through the outer edges of the nebula, his instruments barely functioning in the electromagnetic chaos. Behind him, a combined fleet of human and alien vessels moved in careful formation. The force included converted Earth cargo ships, modified Korrigan mining vessels, and sleek Delphinian submarines that had been adapted for space combat. "Gold, leader to all units," Ryan broadcast on the encrypted frequency. "Remember, the nebula interferes with their sensors as much as ours. Use that advantage. Hit hard, hit fast, and get out before they can coordinate a response." Dr. Sandra Wells, now heading the Joint Research Division, watched the operation from Earth's command center. Over the past 2 years, she had made breakthrough discoveries about human neural patterns during combat. Her research showed that humans actually became more effective fighters as situations became more desperate. "General," she reported to Alex, The bio-monitoring data from our pilots shows the same pattern we've observed before. Human stress responses in combat actually increase cognitive function rather than decrease it. It's why our tactics seem random to the Vorthons. We're literally thinking faster and more creatively under pressure. Alex nodded, though his attention remained focused on the tactical displays. Doctor, right now I'm more concerned about whether our people can survive what we're asking them to do. The attack began exactly as planned. Ryan's fighter squadron dove through the nebula's electromagnetic interference, using it as cover to approach the Vorthon capital ships. The enemy sensors couldn't lock onto targets through the cosmic storm, but human pilots had learned to navigate by instinct and calculation. Target acquired, Ryan announced as the massive Vorthon flagship appeared through the swirling gas clouds. Beginning torpedo run. What happened next became legend among the resistance forces. Ryan's fighter, instead of following standard attack patterns, performed a maneuver that no computer could have calculated. He used the nebula's gravity wells and electromagnetic fields to slingshot his tiny craft around a massive asteroid, building up incredible speed while remaining invisible to Vorthon sensors. The torpedo strike hit the flagship's shield generator array with devastating precision. The explosion created a chain reaction that knocked out the ship's primary defenses and left it vulnerable to follow-up attacks. All units, the flagship's shields are down, Ryan broadcast. Converge on target, Alpha, and finish it. Admiral Zek watched in horror as his most powerful warship exploded under the combined assault of human fighters and converted alien cargo vessels. The attack had come from an impossible angle, using tactics that defied every principle of space combat he had ever learned. How did they get through our defenses, he demanded. Sir, his tactical officer replied, their attack vector used the nebula's electromagnetic interference to mask their approach. No standard navigation computer could have calculated that trajectory. Then how did they do it? The tactical officer hesitated before answering. Sir, I believe they improvised the entire attack during the battle itself. They adapted their strategy in real time based on changing conditions. This was the fundamental difference that Admiral Zek and the entire Vorthon military could not understand. Their forces relied on careful planning, detailed analysis, and proven tactics. They fought battles the way their ancestors had fought battles for thousands of years. Humans, on the other hand, rewrote the rules of engagement during the fight itself. They adapted, improvised, and created new tactics on the spot. Every battle was different because humans refused to be predictable. The Battle of the Crimson Nebula continued for 8 hours. When it ended, the Vorthon fleet had been shattered. Admiral Zek's flagship was destroyed, along with 12 other capital ships. The remaining Vorthon vessels retreated in disorder, their command structure broken and their morale shattered. Gold Leader to Earth Command, Ryan reported as his damaged fighter limped away from the battlefield. Mission accomplished. The Vorthon main fleet is neutralized. But the victory came at a cost. Earth had lost 37 ships in the battle, including several vessels carrying irreplaceable personnel. Captain Ben Rodriguez's brother Tony had died when his converted mining ship was destroyed by Vorthon plasma fire. Lieutenant Jenny Adams had sacrificed her fighter to disable a Vorthon cruiser, ramming it at full speed when her weapons failed. General Alex Carter read the casualty reports with mixed emotions. The strategic victory was complete. Vorthon power in this sector of the galaxy was broken, but the human cost reminded him that every victory brought them closer to the edge of survival. Sir, Captain Lisa Morgan reported, we're receiving surrender offers from 4 Vorthon commanders. They want to negotiate terms. Alex looked at the star map, now showing green lights where red warnings had been just hours before. The rebellion had achieved something that seemed impossible just 2 years ago. The mighty Vorthon Empire was asking for peace. What are our casualties across all 3 operations? Alex asked. Heavy, sir, but the mission objectives were achieved. Mechanos is free, the Delphinian naval base is secure, and the main Vorthon fleet is neutralized. Elder Korvash felt the cosmic balance shifting as he meditated in his crystal chamber. The Yai future he had seen in the ancient texts was coming to pass. The humans had not only survived their first contact with galactic civilization, they had transformed it completely. On distant worlds, species that had been enslaved for centuries were now free. The rigid order that had dominated the galaxy for millennia was collapsing, replaced by something chaotic but full of hope. The humans had proven that any fight could be won if you refused to accept defeat. But Corvash also sensed something else, something that worried him. Deep in the space between galaxies, ancient things stirred. The cosmic upheaval caused by the human rebellion had attracted attention from powers that had slept for eons. The galaxy's time of peace and order was ending, but what came next might be more dangerous than anything they had faced before. The humans had won their war of independence, but their greatest test might still be ahead. 5 years after first contact, Ambassador Helen Brooks walked through the corridors of the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers on Zentara Prime. The crystal walls still hummed with alien voices, but everything else had changed. Where once 12 species had ruled the galaxy through fear and force, now 47 different civilizations participated as equals in the new confederation. Helen paused before entering the main chamber, adjusting the simple blue uniform that marked her as Earth's first galactic representative. Behind her walked representatives from the former slave worlds, Vex of the Corrigans, Coral of the Delphinians, and dozens of others who had won their freedom through courage and human inspiration. Ambassador Brooks called Elder Corvash as she entered the chamber. His crystal form was dimmer now, aged by the stress of watching his predictions come true. "Are you ready for today's vote?" Helen nodded. "The new charter has support from 39 worlds so far. The remaining 8 are still deciding." The chamber filled as representatives took their places. The sight would have been impossible to imagine 5 years ago. Former slaves sat beside their former masters. Species that had never been allowed to speak now had equal voices in galactic governance. At the center of the chamber, President Tom Baker waited to address the assembly. He had been elected as Earth's leader specifically for this moment, the man who would represent humanity on the galactic stage. His simple manner and straightforward speech had won respect even from alien species, who had initially dismissed humans as primitive. "Members of the galactic community," Tom began, his words translated into dozens of different languages simultaneously. 5 years ago, most of you had never heard of humanity. Today, we stand together as equals, having proved that no species should rule over another through force alone. Ambassador Thex, the former Vorthon representative, sat quietly in his designated area. The once mighty empire had been reduced to their home system and a handful of loyal colonies. The proud military leader who had dismissed humanity as primitive now listened respectfully to the species that had brought down his empire. "The proposed charter," Tom continued, "establishes 3 fundamental principles. First, membership in the galactic community must be voluntary. No species will be forced to join or remain against their will. Second, all member species have equal representation regardless of their technology level or military power. Third, conflicts between members will be resolved through negotiation and arbitration, not warfare." Helen watched the faces around the chamber as Tom spoke. Some showed enthusiasm, others uncertainty. The Arcturians had embraced the new system immediately, their peaceful nature making them natural supporters of diplomatic solutions. The proud Celestines had been slower to accept their reduced status, but even they had come to appreciate the stability that the new order provided. "I call for a vote on the adoption of the Galactic Confederation Charter," Tom announced. One by one, the representatives cast their votes. The tally was closer than Helen had hoped, but sufficient for passage. 31 species voted in favor, 8 voted against, and 8 abstained. The new galactic government was officially established. Elder Corvash stood as the voting concluded. His ancient voice carried clearly through the translation systems. "I have lived long enough to see the galaxy change many times, but never so dramatically or so quickly. The humans brought us a gift we did not know we needed, the knowledge that any situation can be improved if you refuse to accept that it cannot be changed." Dr. Grace Turner barely heard the announcement from the Galactic Council. She was focused on the data streaming across her screens at the remote research station on the edge of known space. What she was seeing should have been impossible, but the evidence was undeniable. "Commander Davis," she called to the station's military liaison. "You need to see this." Commander Paul Davis moved to her workstation, studying the complex readings with growing concern. "Doctor, are you certain about these measurements?" Grace nodded grimly. "The signals are definitely artificial. Multiple sources, all coming from beyond the galactic rim. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Paul studied the data more carefully. The signals showed patterns that suggested intelligence, but the technology producing them was far more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered. More disturbing, the signals were growing stronger and more numerous every day. "How long have you been tracking these?" Paul asked. 3 weeks since the first detection, but Paul, look at this timing chart. The signal started increasing right after the Battle of the Crimson Nebula. Whatever's out there, it's responding to our activities. Paul felt a chill run down his spine. The human rebellion had shaken the galaxy to its foundations, but they had always assumed the conflict was limited to the species within their own galaxy. Now it appeared that their war had attracted attention from something much more powerful and completely unknown. "Doctor, what's your assessment of the technology level we're dealing with?" Grace was quiet for a long moment, checking her calculations one more time. "Based on the energy signatures and transmission methods, I'd estimate they're at least 10,000 years ahead of current galactic technology. Maybe more." On Zentara Prime, the celebration of the new galactic charter was interrupted by urgent reports from monitoring stations across the galaxy. Elder Corvash received the data in his meditation chamber, his crystal form pulsing with alarm as he processed the implications. Ambassador Helen Brooks was summoned from the celebration to an emergency session with the Council's scientific advisors. The news they brought changed everything. "Ambassador," reported Dr. Yellen, the Celestine chief scientist, "we have confirmation of artificial signals originating from extragalactic space. The patterns suggest a technology level far exceeding our own." Helen studied the preliminary reports, her mind racing through the implications. "Do we know if these signals represent a threat?" "Unknown at this time. However, the timing is concerning. The signals began increasing shortly after humanity's victory at the Crimson Nebula. It's possible that our conflict has attracted unwanted attention." Elder Corvash entered the emergency session, his ancient presence bringing a sense of perspective to the crisis. "My friends," he said quietly, "I have consulted the deepest archives of my people. There are references to ancient powers that sleep in the darkness between galaxies, powers that stir when the cosmic balance is disturbed." "What do the archives say about these powers?" Helen asked. "Very little that is specific. Only warnings that some forces are too great for any single galaxy to face alone. The text suggests that unity and cooperation are the only defenses against such threats." Helen looked around the room at the representatives of species that had been enemies just years before. Humans, Corrigans, Delphinians, even Vorthans, all working together to analyze a threat that none of them fully understood. "Then it's fortunate," she said slowly, "that we've just learned how to work together." Dr. Grace Turner continued monitoring the mysterious signals from her remote station. As the days passed, the transmissions became more complex and seemed to be probing the galaxy's outer defenses. Whatever intelligence was behind them appeared to be learning about galactic civilization through careful observation. "Commander," she reported to Paul during their daily briefing, "I'm detecting movement now. Physical objects, not just signals. Something large is approaching from intergalactic space." Paul activated the emergency communication system that connected the research station to the new Galactic Confederation headquarters. "Priority alert to all member worlds. We have contact with an unknown extragalactic intelligence. Repeat, this is not a drill." Back on Earth, General Alex Carter received the alert in his office at the expanded Earth Defense Force headquarters. The walls were now covered with star charts showing human colonies and allied worlds scattered across dozens of star systems. Humanity had grown from a single world to a galactic civilization in just 5 years. "Sir," Captain Lisa Morgan reported as she entered with the latest intelligence briefings, The signals are confirmed by monitoring stations across the galaxy. Whatever's coming, it's bigger than anything we've faced before. Alex looked at the TU star charts, thinking about everything humanity had accomplished and everything they had yet to protect. Lisa, get me a conference call with Ambassador Brooks and the Confederation leadership. If something that advanced is heading our way, we need to be ready. Sir, what if this new threat is beyond our ability to fight? Alex smiled grimly, the expression that had become famous throughout the galaxy as the look of human determination. Then we'll do what we always do, Captain. We'll find a way to fight anyway. Elder Corvash felt the cosmic forces shifting once again as he meditated on the approaching crisis. The humans had transformed their galaxy from a place of oppression to one of hope and cooperation. They had proved that any enemy could be defeated if you refused to accept defeat. Now they would face their greatest test. Ancient powers were stirring, in the darkness between galaxies, drawn by the cosmic upheaval of the human rebellion. The galaxy would need all the unity and determination that humanity had taught them to survive what was coming.